So, as I currently suffer what some people might call a splitting headache, I think this is the appropriate time to record this week's episode of me. I mean, the casual conversations with me, Carlz. The only show, as far as I know, where some bald dude takes whatever he said in Spanish and tries to put it in English in mildly, I don't know, coherent words. So, this episode was like one that I wanted to do for a long time, especially because I not only love this movie, but I think it's one of the best movies of the past like 10 years. And as the beginning disclaimer of this episode, I have to say, or better yet, I'm gonna apologize for two things. First, for those of you that watch this on YouTube, not me not being on camera, because it's really cold right now, and I'm like, I don't know, wearing like several layers, funky hats, and like, I don't know, I don't feel like showing my winter shut-in look. That's for one. And second is I'm gonna butcher everything I say in Irish, I guess. And with that, you can already see that to this week's subject is the Banshees of Inisherin, the 2022 movie directed by Martin McDonagh, starring Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, among others, right? As usual, I'm not gonna talk about like filmmaker or anything because I'm not a filmmaker, but something really curious happened. That's a hard word. Something really funny happened recently, and something that pushed this conversation forward. There was this 2024 movie by A24 called Friendship, starring Tim Robinson, funny face Tim Robinson, and ultra charismatic Paul Rudd, fan favorite, right? Somebody said that Friendship was either American or like modern times Banshees, and I went like, okay, is that so? So that pushed forward my thoughts about Banshees and sharing them with you all. So, for those who don't know, Banshees, I'm gonna just start calling it Banshees, just for sake of convenience. Banshees is about these friends, two friends that live on an island off the coast of Ireland, right? And one day, one of the friends, Colm, played by Brendan Gleeson, decides that he doesn't want to be friends anymore with Padraig, the character portrayed by Colin Farrell. What follows is just a sequence of really they're not bizarre, but they keep running into each other, and everything escalates as Colm desperately tries to different. Is it different? Yeah, different Padraig to the extremes where he goes, if you talk to me again, I'm gonna chop off my fingers. Spoilers, which he eventually does, right? So, what is the deal with this movie? To me, and even though I studied philosophy, I don't want to be too philosophical about it, but if there's one strain of or school of philosophy that it can be easily be called like open or casual is existentialism, right? This movie is basically the justification of the, pardon the pun or no pun intended, the existence of existentialism. It's funny because the setting of the movie being in a small island with like common folk, like regular people, makes it so like everything they do is full on, let's say, development of an idea. What I mean by this is like, for example, Colm goes like, okay, I don't want to be your friend anymore. If you keep talking to me, I'm gonna chop off my fingers. This is not like subtlety or like city talk. Like, there's no space for interpretation, and you gotta be really careful with this. Like, because of course I'm interpreting something that at the same time I'm saying there's no place for interpretation, but that is the magic of it. The magic of Banshees, and it being a portrayal of existentialism like no other, is that they manage with the setting and the way the characters are written to avoid any complications. So these are just people that get thrown into the world, right? Being forced into exist into a role, right? But then something happens in one of them, which is of course the constant how can you call it, the constant battle between existing and existing. And this is not a play on words, right? This means existing as you and existing as you in a circumstance. So what Combs goes through is, even though it's simple, it's also layered in a sense that, okay, he's going through a crisis, right? He's going through a crisis that forces him to try to break up his friendship with Patrick. And this crisis is that he wants to fall into the, how can you say, like the, no, it's not a shell, but he wants to be an artist, right? He doesn't want to be any artist. He wants to be a tragic artist, which is clear from the beginning, right? Which means that he could not, or like he doesn't want to be related in any ways to a simpleton, like how did he call him, like a doll. He doesn't want to be have any kind of relationship with a dull person, which is Patrick. And of course, every sort of conflict that happens in between them falls into this really intense type of portrayal of these things. As I said, the setting and the writing makes it so they don't have any further complications. And this is where sort of like the philosophical magic happens. Every character in Banshees seems to be their fullest. I mean this in like an essential way. It's funny to think about it because they fall almost to the point of being caricatures of whatever they do, right? Struggling artist, the nice guy from a small town, the sister, who plays the sister? I haven't written down here. Kerry Condon plays Siobhan, right? Every character is really dangerously close into becoming a caricature of whatever they're trying to portray, but at the same time, it makes sense. And by it making sense, it makes the existential dread of the movie true. The biggest sort of like how can you say, like accomplishment you can say is like me, some random bald guy living thousands of kilometers from Ireland, and even in another time and place, can feel the existential dread of these characters. I don't want to become like a existentialism apologist or anything, right? Even though most of the things you can get out of it are true, right? You see this, and you can see that it's universal. And there are few things more seductive for philosophy that some sort of like a proof of universality. Like you found the vein on which existence itself happens, right? Which is this misery of trying to exist in a place, right? In a way that you're forced to against what you really want. And in some ways, the movie makes its own editorial choices, right? This is not just a play on existence. This is a portrayal of honesty, goodness, and like and in some way love. So the contrast of the dread and misery of existence is not to, let's say, dwell on it, right? And be getting drawn into the bottom of the complications that is existing, but to see some sort of like a gray, shiny light in between. You can see this through a couple of characters. First, Patrick himself, and then his sister. There's one line in this movie that it always gets me. And when Patrick says, I thought being a nice guy was enough. This is a really interesting line because by Colm having his crisis, he calls out to Patrick and basically denies his existence. And we can see it played like that, right? An existential vessel and an existential will, like in Colm and in Patrick. So while Colm's is contrasting, Patrick's was not. And here I have to give like enormous props to Colin Farrell. Like there's something in his abandoned puppy looking eyes that just you can totally believe that Patrick not only is proud and happy to just be a nice guy, he feels like a nice guy. But it's a completely messed up a character arc, right? He gets challenged by Colm, and eventually his own existential mold of the nice guy gets destroyed. And even though this is heartbreaking, it's not something gray, as I said, or sad to look upon. You know, because existence, however we wanna see it, is mostly gray. Like it's up to us to see the color in it. Which, of course, it's also something that you can vouch the movie for. The location is perfect to show this grayness. Perhaps it's that way in Ireland every day. But the other character, as I said, was his sister. And his sister has this really sort of like uncanny view of reality, which is like she just sees how it is, right? Like this is a no bullshit character. She just sees it like it is. In that one scene where he goes like, I don't know why the fuck you guys are fighting about. You think one is dull, the other one is not dull? Like, breaking news, you are both dull. This island is dull. By extension, existing is dull, right? And at some point, she leaves. And like, she doesn't leave in a conflictive way. She doesn't leave out of hate or out of spite. She leaves to survive. So you have another portrayal of an essence fighting its existent mold and choosing another one, or looking for another one, showing the fluidity of existence. But even though I'm gonna keep saying existence a lot, there is heart in it. And I think that is what I love the most about this movie. There is so much heart in it. Like when Patrick says, like, casually, like, I only met one person that I only met two people that I care for. One was you, Colm, before you turned into an asshole, and my sister. And like, as I said, his character is so accomplished that whenever he says, like, he says everything like an innocent kid, right? Oh, my sister is nice. She's the nicest person I know. And you believed it. And the movie keeps like trying on these characters, even making the what is the name of the crazy character, the one played by Barry Keoghan, Dominic, right? This abused kid. He was abused by his father, I think physically and sexually, right? And he tries, for one desperate moment, to get the sister to like him, like would you ever love somebody like me? And she says no. And everything in the movie works so well that when she says no, you can tell it's not cruelty, it's not out of spite, it's real, it's just real. I you're not forced to love anyone, even if they're suffering. You're not forced to love them. That's not how it works, right? And of course, it's heavily implied that he ends up taking his own life, right? And falling into the lake. The point is, there are several dynamics in this movie, and they all show the same, which is different people, or let's call them like either identities or wills, and how they deal with the weight of existence. How do we deal with the big paradox of having to fill up these molds of like sister, nice guy, musician, right? Victim. How do we take these molds? How do we acknowledge them? How do we mold our own wills into them? There are like so many layers portrayed by this bunch of characters, like this small bunch of characters in a small island. And as I said, like it's so perfect because they shows like really like things to the point, right? But they all resonate in a universal manner, which is amazing. It is like completely amazing. As someone who prides himself of also trying to not only aim for but looking for this the nice guy part, right? When he goes, as I said, like I thought being a nice guy was enough. It's just like it's you, no matter how you look. And when Colm goes like, I need to create something that goes beyond me. Even though he lives in a small island and like probably never gonna happen, and he ends up like cutting all of his fingers, effectively like killing the thing that he wanted the most, which was music, right? Even though he ends up doing that, it's you too, right? It's we. I'm gonna try to do this. It's out of my mold. I'm not supposed to be this. I'm gonna try it. And of course you might end up like overdoing it as he did. Because at the end of the day, you having a tragic background has never ever meant that automatically your music is going to be good. As Patrick himself says, like your song is shite anyways, right? And that is like just the genius of Banshees. It's just so heartwarming. Even at the end where he goes, I think Colm goes something like, I guess this thing between us is over. And Patrick says no, it's not. Because basically he's out of the nice guy existential mold into the not bad guy, but into the mean guy. He's gone into violence. He's gone like into lying and everything, and they just keep moving on. I don't know. I think it might be a bit of a personal thing to see this warmth into this grayness, but to me, this is what really sort of like black comedy is, right? I still giggle a lot during the movie, and I still, to the surprise of no one, I still sob with the movie, especially with the brother and sister dynamic, right? It still hits you really hard because it's you. Whether you like it or not, or whether you look like them or not, it's you. It's universal. And that is when I make the segue into friendship. So in a nutshell, friendship is about this guy, Tim Robinson, who lives this middle class American life, right? Which, of course, as you can see, or as you can hear in my tone, already makes a difference. Like, already restricts how familiar you are with these characters. Like the whole middle class suffering that Americans seems to be so fond of. It's never been universal. Like for a foreigner, for somebody like me that has grown that grew up in a whole different country, let's call it smaller country, right? Like, dude, like it never ends to amaze how Americans are like so keen on, oh, this guy is suffering because he has a house, a wife, and a son, and a car, and I'm not diminishing his suffering at all. I'm just making it clear that it's way less familiar, or it's extremely harder to empathize with him. And like when in Banshees, I said you see yourself in them because the script and the way the characters are written are simply more universal in subject, because whatever they are suffering from is the concept of their universal and of their existential shells, right? That is the point. These shells are universal. The details aren't. But in the case of friendship, if we focus on Tim Robinson's character, right, it seems that he's lashing out of this existential shell out of those details. So he meets Paul Rudd's character, right, and sort of creates this obsession with being his friend, which of course ends up badly, right? He ends up fucking up in some friend get together, and like he being a little bit awkward, he ends up committing several like faux pas, right? Like really messing up the relationship just by trying too hard, basically. And the main difference, and what triggered me to talk about this movie, is that while Banshees is showing the existential conflict, as I said, between the mold and the essence of the person trying to exist in that mold, right? For the sake of them existing, right? In friendship, they use this contrast to create the awkwardness that sort of like the movie tries to portrays either as horror or like comedy, you know. So anything Tim Robinson's characters does sort of like it's not reflective. It's just like an external portrayal of just like awkwardness, because we don't really see what he wants to be. Like we see Colm like trying to be a musician. We see Patrick struggling to be the nice guy. But we don't really see what Tim Robinson or Paul Rudd's characters are trying to fit in. It seems that they're like a shared American middle class accommodated guy reality. It seems like whatever they struggle with, or whatever they are showing in the movie as something that is strange or weird, is strange or weird. Like, if I see Colm chopping off his fingers to try to fit into this suffering musician reality of existence, I see it. Like I empathize with it. I could go as far as saying that I might even do it myself if I was in that situation. Right? I see the struggle. I feel it, because this mold is something we've all gone through. But in the case of friendship, okay, you can say like, oh, but he just wants to be friends with him, right? and maybe his awkward behavior is the same as Colm's. Okay, but then let's think about the things he does, and let's think if they are more or less awkward. So let's take one example. During Friendship, there's one scene where he basically breaks into Paul Rudd's character and like walks through his house, and like I think he smells his clothes and like plays to be him, and like, and you go like, okay, this is awkward. But when you see Combs, you don't see, at least I don't say this is awkward, but you say like, this is hurtful. Like, why is he doing this? And when you ask that question, the answer is like, oh, I see it. But in Friendship, you don't see it. I don't. I for sure don't. And mainly because he could just don't do it and approach it in a different manner. They are both sharing this space, this like advanced space, like filled with like I don't know, all the amenities of being a middle class American, right? When he goes crazy, it just feels off. And everything to the casting of Tim Robinson is right there for the picking. Like I don't want to be mean or like focus solely on his appearance, but they chose him for a reason. He looks weird. Like and then he looks and he behaves weird. You can like go on and how is it less weird for a guy to what other thing he does? He steals from him, then he stalks him to his job, and like why is that not as weird as a guy chopping off his fingers? Because I feel like it's gonna sound funny, but I think if he went to therapy, you know, he could get over it, because he has so much shit going on for his life, right? And there's no way none of that has any meaning. Like there's no way. Like, why wasn't his relationship with his wife something he could focus on? Why wasn't his career? Why wasn't his relationship with his son? Why wasn't anything or other of his hobbies? So then the movie just like insist that he's a loser. Like, his co-workers don't like him, like his son doesn't like him. So then you get into this also like classic traditional American thing, like, oh, the suburb people, they have never been happy with what they have, because of course like their work days are too long, they don't have space to develop personally, whatever. So there's the classic thing, even though you see how many things they have, spiritually, they have nothing. And okay, I guess I can see it. I guess I can empathize with it. But I never bought into the idea that having resources, right, makes it so you don't have choices. And here's the thing. It's not like he's not allowed to feel like that. It's not like every like middle class American sort of reality needs to be tragic or needs to be happy necessarily. You can find alternatives and reactions to different ways of life anywhere. And that's fair. But you as a movie are making a choice on what you want to show. And while Banshees is trying to show that out of the gray of this reality, right, there is empathy. right? There's empathy, there's love, right? Friendship is just trying to make you feel awkward with almost like a, what is the new term? With a parasocial, antisocial sort of like behavior. Every focus of friendship in the Tim Robinson's character hijinks, like excesses or like situations, like everything they show him in, right, seems to be for us to laugh at him. Like the setup is for you to watch from outside and go like, look at this weirdo, like ha 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 ha. I tried really hard to empathize with any of the characters from Friendship. And of course, if you are part of the proletariat and living in the capitalist world and you are not in control of the means of production, of course you can empathize with him. Oh, fucking course. But still, they do have so much. They have so many options. And as I said, like this doesn't having options doesn't necessarily mean that you are capable of finding the one for you, and doesn't exclude your right to feel sad of or overwhelmed. But they are there. Options as the contrast of just having like some sort of existential crisis. And a latecomer to the discussion that appeared out of nowhere that I watched a couple of days ago. It's the movie. I saw it recently and I didn't really research so much of it, but this like I think this Dutch or something, a quote unquote horror movie called The Girl with the Needle. Another really funky existential drama or slash horror movie, if you want to call it. Uh, and I bring it up like quickly just to mention how like overall grayness, like overall like sadness of existence, can be the overwhelming factor when we think about existentialism. And it can easily be like it in this movie. There's like abortion, there's like murder, there's like war trauma, PTSD. The movie is so bleak, right? It's so freaking bleak that I think that you can honestly find like less than a 1% of like good things, like, and not good things saying that the movie is bad, but good things like a goodness in its message. It's just like overwhelmingly bleak, and that's fair too, right? But the point is, when you go into this subject, when you try to show it in any movie setting, right, even though it's ambiguous in nature and you can make it really interpretative if you wanted to me at least, you can show it full bleak, like in The Girl with the Needle. You can show it weird, right? Like for people to either laugh or like feel distraught by it, like in Friendship. Or you can show it so people can not see a silver lining, but find a warmth in the mostly not warm fact of existing. There's a brilliance in Banshee's writing that is directly related to what do we want to say and what do you want to show, right? It's the same subject. But I don't want to show them like just being weird just because. It would be easy to make fun of Patrick for being a simpleton, right? They could have gone overboard with him. And like just make him like cartoonish, as Tim Robinson character is in Friendship. But they don't. They keep him real. they keep him embracing the possibility of the existence of the nice guy. And you can say like, oh, but that doesn't exist in like post World War II Holland, right, where like it was all drama and everything. Or you can say like, oh, that doesn't exist in the bleak, mundane world of middle class America. That doesn't exist. It might only exist in that small island in Ireland. And you could go like, okay, perhaps you're right, but I don't have to agree with it. Like, could you have found like more happiness in a setting like friendship? Of course you could, man. Like there's so many varieties, not only to existing but to deal with existence itself. It clearly wanted to show awkwardness. It clearly wanted to show like I don't know, conflict. It clearly wanted to, because it's either a horror movie or like some sort of like a dark comedy experiment. And even that subject, I'm not totally agree with it. Parenthesis on that, like I think that is the real meaning of dark comedy. To me, dark comedy is that laughing at the, let's say, the how can you say, those elements of reality which you cannot escape, which of course existing in one is one of them. Like, it's so miserable to exist, to live in general, right? That's what you laugh at, because we can all laugh with you, right? It's not about making fun of minorities or anything, but because then you're not laughing together, then you're laughing at someone, and that's just being plain cruel, which is sort of the case of friendship, right? We just laugh at Tim Robinson's character. Haha, that would never be me, loser. But for Banshees, not only it can be you, you probably are, or we probably are, and that is sort of like the finishing point, or like the big point I'm trying to make, right? These subjects are bigger than us. They always will. They were always were. They always are. How can you say that? Like the three times, like past, present, and future. It's something that it's just like that, right? And of course, you have the freedom as a creator, as a movie maker, to make it however you wanna do it, right? And I don't wanna either like say that person that compared the two movies is wrong. Like, I have no right to say that, and I can't say it. I mean, I can't say it. But I think the point of doing this, to me, it has to be to find some silver lining. It has to. Like, Banshees is even way more tragic than friendship. But for some reason, friendship is just, as I said, so ridiculous, so obnoxious, so like out of place. As I said, it probably has to do with the fact that the whole middle class American reality is so foreign to me. And just being unable to understand how can you fuck up having so many choices. Like how? Like, I just can't get that into my mind. Maybe that is the key, right? You can feel more connected to the lack of choices in Banshees because you sort of experience it similarly. You can argue for that point, but at the same time, you can deny that point by saying that you can feel like that in every sort of setting. But you can have all of the choices in the same setting. I rephrase that. So in Banshees, they might have less choices to deal with their existential crisis, right? Thus making their suffering universal. But you can go reverse in friendship. You see, you can see the universal existential dread in friendship, but you must acknowledge the reflection on the possibilities it has to be dealt with. The universality and weight is the same, but the options are not. Do options make it like more or less important? No. Like, do options necessarily mean that a good ending is in order for any of them? No. But acknowledging those options, to me, is necessary in the setting of like American middle class. Otherwise, if you choose to show him being so weird, it seems like it's like something, I don't know. It's so, I don't know, like condescending, like and the fact that all the setting points to it just being weird. That's it. It's all that it ends up being, just weird. But anyways, I think by now I'm digressing. I like both movies, by the way. Of course, I have issues with Friendship because of the focus it tried, and of course, I'm not in complete agreement with the comparison, even though they deal with the same subject. I think if you're gonna do a movie solely focused on the subject of existence, you better make it as universal as possible, because that is where the heart lies. That is how you make it so anyone can see it and feel, right, as the characters do. But if you choose the other way, which of course Friendship did, as like horror slash comedy side, you alienate. You choose to alienate people, so you can't really go behind the banner of existentialism for that. You go behind the banner of social issues, right? Like psychological issues, like I don't know, anything related to your specific reality, full of choices and options. Not really behind something that we can all feel. Maybe only Americans can feel it in the way they show it in the movie, and maybe they behave like wackos because Americans tend to behave more like that. I don't know. Who knows? But anyways, both movies are great. But Banshees, as I said at the beginning, is probably one of the best movies of the last 10 years. Its simplicity only highlights its complexity. The performances just take it home and make everything real. The writing and the subject is so universal that it pulls on every heartstring available. The setting is beautiful. The music is great. Has dogs in it. But anyways, I still have a headache. I'm still cold. And I wish you could talk this with people. Somehow making a soliloquy about existentialism is just like your reflection, like dueling for trying to find the silver lining. Oh, I guess that is the challenge, right? At the end, finding the silver lining is up to you. But bye, guys. By God, my gosh, it's hard, and I'm out of this fucking place. So cheerio, good luck. Watch these movies, feel for them, and when you feel for them, feel for you. Good night.